Hello everyone and welcome back, or if you're new here, hi, I'm Alex and today we're going to draw some lily flowers. I got inspired by some of the work that I saw other artists are doing, not just for lily flowers overall, but the way that they add a background to a piece where a couple of pieces of a sketch stand out and step out of that background. So I'm going to do that in a minute, but for now I'm going to start with sketching based on the photo reference that I'm going to link down below. This one is from Hannah Ollinger that I found on unsplash.com. So first I'm starting with a basic trumpet shape to start to see how this first top flower is behaving, how it's angled, and I'm determining the position of the petals based on the middle lines that I'm seeing in every single petal. So those will be a bit wavy and add a 3D kind of a 3D dimension to this flower so that I can start going in and sketching in the petals. For the petals, I'm using pretty angular shapes, not carving them out in detail, but just to see how they're placed and how they're overlapping. I see that the top one is placed behind, the two next two petals are above it and a bit more of a leaf-like shape, and the middle bottom one is kind of like a heart, so I'm just drawing a heart shape in this case, and the bottom two are a bit angled, so I'm replicating that and thinking about leaf-like petal shape in this case. So once I'm done with that, I will sketch out the middle part, so adding a couple of lines that are coming out of the middle of the flower and then adding a dot for the central one and a couple of smaller lines, angled ones, for the remaining parts. So once I'm happy with how this looks like, I'm going to add a bit more of the outline for every single petal. So in this case, I'm zooming into the photo reference, really looking at the details for every single petal, how it's bent, how it behaves, which parts of it are a bit wavy, which parts of it are a bit more straight, and trying to replicate that as close as possible. In this case, you really can zoom in as much as you would like to and try to see how it's placed compared to the petals next to that one, the gaps between them, if they have any triangular shapes between them or something that has a bit more of a different kind of shape. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but that'll be a good stepping point to see the placement for every single part of the petal. So once I'm happy with that, I'm going to start shading in every single petal a bit on the middle side, most of it, and the top one and the bottom right cornered one have a bit more of a shading, not in the middle but on the very edge of it. So I'm just adding a couple of lines here and there to add a bit more of that depth. And because I noticed that these lilies have a couple of smaller dots sprinkled around the central part, I added a bit more in this sketch because I really love the details, and I'm not going to ink it, so you'll notice that for every single one except for the bottom left one, I didn't add as much of those tiny dots and lines as I would like to, but I really wanted to keep adding them for some visual interest, and that's it. For the bottom lily, I again started with a trumpet-like shape, but this time a bit more angled, like it's coming out of the top right corner. So definitely thinking about a trumpet or a something like that to start with, and again thinking about those middle lines in every single petal to start to see how they are going to be placed, and adding pretty angular, sharp outline for every single petal. So once I carve out the details that are a bit more sharp and angular, I'm starting to sketch in the petals actually. So in this stage, if I'm happy with the placement of the rough outline for every single petal, I will keep it and just outline it. But if I notice that some of the things are not as I would like them to be compared to the photo reference, I will fix them in this stage. So here I'm really noticing the differences in the top two petals, since the one in the background is really odd. So I'm just thinking about the shape of it and nothing else to really sketch it out, and the other ones are pretty standard. The top one is a weird heart shape, a bit more bent and 3D like, and for the middle part, again starting with the one straight line and a couple of them that are going out a bit at the edges, adding a dot for the middle one and adding a couple of dashes or elliptical shapes to the edges of the rest. So once I'm happy with that, I will go back in to outline the details a bit further for the petals. And in this stage, I really want to just make the main positioning really clear in this instance, since my usual preference when I'm sketching is to really do it messy and make sure to find the middle ground somewhere in the sketch. With that, when I ink, I usually determine where it looks best. So you'll notice when I sketch it a bit more. And the strokes are a bit wider compared to some of the more neat sketches. So once I'm happy with how all of that looks like, I will start shading in the petals, starting with the middle part, since I noticed that these lilies and in the photo reference middle parts have a couple of lines here and there, and some of the other ones they're a bit more bent, have a bit more shading, so I'm looking to incorporate that a little bit, not too much. Because if I start going a bit more, it'll be fully dark and I won't see the details. And when I'm happy with all of that, I'll add a couple of more lines as I did in the previous lily flower, and that's it for this one. Last but not least is the lily in the background. I'm noticing that it's looking towards the camera, so I'm adding a circle, a central part with a smaller circle, and adding a bit more of those angular shapes for the petals to make sure that they're carved out nicely. But I'm noticing that in this one, since it's facing straight across, there are some gaps between the petals towards the center, so I'm looking to keep that and to not forget it when I start adding the background. So that's key. And I'm adding in the central parts based on the photo reference a bit more loosely, but I'm looking to add a bit more of that dimension with the shading as well, closer to the central part. And again, the middle of each petal, since they have those lines. And in this stage, I'm starting to add a bit more of those dots closer to the central part of the flower, closer to the very beginning of the petals, so to add a bit more of that dimension, visual appeal, and the details, because if I can add more, I will add more. Once I'm happy with all of that and how that looks like, I decided to not ink, but to use a 7B pencil in this case to really sketch out and make the outlines darker, but also I will use a 7B pencil for the background in this case. You can use a colored pencil, you can use inks at this stage, anything that you prefer. I haven't tried anything with watercolors or gouache for that matter, but I think that will look best as well for the background, to add a bit more of that color if you would like to. So in this stage, I'm really looking into outlining the petals with a bit more of that darker pencil. And in this stage, I'm really going in with a heavy hand to add the details, not just for the borders of the petals, but for the central part as well, since when I started adding a bit more of the details there, they really stand out. As you may see in this stage, even if you try it out again, you will notice that they stand out a bit more, and the shading in the petals look a bit more muted or light compared to what we did initially. They were all balanced, and in this stage they look a bit more smooth and muted in some way. So you may notice that in this stage I'm doing things pretty similarly to some of my older tutorials. If you've seen them before, I usually do this stage with inks, so this time I just took a pen and went with it, and I like how it turned out. Alright, so once you're happy with your lilies and how you sketched them, it's time to add a background. In this case, I wanted to use a card holder because I wanted to make sure that I get it right the first time. So this one, I just had it on hand, and I preferred not to use a ruler to sketch out and have unequal gaps in this case. So I went in with the card holder You can use a ruler and determine depending on how the flowers are placed. And since this was a sit down and film kind of a video setup where I just sat down next to a coffee table, I had a book on hand, so I used it as a ruler, which you probably noticed. So with that, I just wanted to add a background to see how it looks like when I had something dark compared to the light flowers. So I'm still using a 7B pencil and shading in the details between the petals and adding the details for the background. You will notice that in a minute I'm starting in a bit lighter and then adding a bit more with a heavier hand, so to fully shade everything in. And I'm paying close attention when I'm next to the petals so that I don't draw over them, or when I'm next to the edges of the background border, I'm making sure that the edges are just a bit more rounder than I sketched out, to add a bit more of that look that I liked to test out in this case. So in this one, I'm noticing that my pencil is running out and I need to sharpen it, so I'm swapping pencils that I had on hand and looking to find a bit more at my desk. In this stage, I do suggest, if you would like to add colors, to add a gouache background or something with colored pencils. Markers can also do well, but if you would like to keep it black and white, I do suggest to keep a pencil or even add something with a black ink. That would be really good. This time I just want to keep sketching with a pencil, so I did everything in a regular HB to sketch out the details and 7B to shade in the background. So I suggest that you will see how everything turned out, but also if you would like to add colors, that can look really good compared to the white lilies. And you can also color the lilies, of course. I think this tutorial is definitely open to interpretation, and if you would like to share it with me, I'm on socials, feel free to tag me, and I always like to see your recreations. And also, when I started shading in the top portion, I noticed that I'm going a bit more darker and I really loved the look, so I'm fixing everything, making sure that I correct the borders of the background as well. So yeah, in this stage I'm just polishing up the background, and this one is the finished piece. I really hope you found this video useful. Consider subscribing if you're new here. Subscribing overall helps a lot for this channel, and if you're still here from the original group, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you staying here, and if you're subscribed, I appreciate that also. I know that I haven't posted in almost 2 years at this point, so this one is a fresh video of me coming back to this place and space to add a bit more of that creativity into not only my life but hopefully yours as well, to inspire you to draw again if you haven't in a while like I did. And yeah, this is a place for us to sit down and sketch, so let me know what you think about this video. And overall, I really liked drawing this and getting back to filming again, so let me know what you would like to see next, and I will see you in my next video. Currently I'm aiming to post at least once per month if life allows it, so let me know what you would like to see next, and I'll make sure to keep the community tab posted. And if you're following me on socials, consider finding updates there. Thanks for watching and see you. Bye.
I'm changing who I am. I'm making a new plan, rearranging my life, and I won't look back ever again.